Good evening, guys. I hope you are okay, you are safe, you are connecting from home. Today, I would like to talk about React. So, we are gonna build a basic application with React from scratch, literally from scratch, from nowhere, essentially, right? No formal coding experience is required. So we'll try to build the application step by step. So the first question I got for you, I hope, by the way, the audio is working. All right, I think I was on mute. So guys, could you please confirm before going any further that you can hear me? Yes, fantastic. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Once again, I will appreciate your interaction. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit boring. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about React. So can anybody give me a basic description about what React is? Any idea? Anybody what React is?
I might be wrong, but I think it's is it the front end JavaScript?
It's a front-end JavaScript what, Jamie?
Application, maybe?
All right, I like that. I think it's a very interesting discussion. Yes, so React, it's a JavaScript library. I know many people believes React is a JavaScript framework. It goes beyond the scope of the session to explain the differences between a framework and a library. But, for now, please keep in mind React is a library. If you go to a job interview and the first thing you said is, yes, React is a framework, they may invite you to leave the building. Yeah. So let's try to use the correct words. We at Codery, we run a coding bootcamp, by the way, if it's your first time with us. So we run a coding bootcamp and we help people to become successful developers, successful JavaScript, React full stack developers. Yeah. So we prepare job interviews, and this is one of the things we prepare. Yeah, what React is? React is a library. It's a library to do what? To build user interfaces, essentially, with JavaScript. Hmm? So does anyone know who looks after React? Which company is responsible to maintain, to upgrade, to develop the React library? It's Facebook. That's correct. That's correct. So React is maintained by Facebook. And before React, does anybody know which was the most important JavaScript utility / framework / library to build user interfaces?
Maybe Angular.
Angular. That's correct, Marco. It was Angular. And
Thank you.
who look after Angular? Which company? Any idea? Any big names?
Maybe Google.
Google, that's correct. That's correct. It's Google. I wanted to say it was Google, but still today, yeah. So Angular is still active, yeah. It's still running today. So you see, at the end of the day, even if we talk about different technicalities, complex aspects of the development journey, at the end of the day, it's just Google versus Facebook. And why is that? Why is that? Because they realize how important JavaScript is. Actually, today JavaScript is the most important programming language in the world. Nothing compares to JavaScript. If you are thinking that the most important programming language is Python or C# or PHP or something else, I'm sorry to tell you you are wrong. And this is not based on my thoughts. This is based on figures. So where are these figures coming from? All right, let's do a bit of screen sharing. So, guys, do you know what GitHub is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain to your colleagues what GitHub is at a basic level, at least?
Well, I think it's like a form of version control.
That's too complicated, guy. What
Yeah.
version control means? I have no idea. I'm switching off. I'm thinking about going out. Well, not going out, not today, but you get my point. Can you simplify that?
It's where we can store our code, maybe.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. I love that. I love that. Guys, when you code, generally speaking, you code locally. Yeah, you have a laptop and you do some coding. Like today, in a few minutes, we're going to do some coding. But the problem is, what happened with that code? Once you finish your coding journey, once you build a bunch of functionalities, what do you do with that code? Yeah, is it safe to keep that code locally on your laptop? Clearly not. What happens if I get over motivated and I smash my laptop against the floor? Yeah, I can lose everything, right? I hope you get my point. So thanks to GitHub, as Jamie suggested, we can essentially save, we can create a copy. I'm oversimplifying, but we can create a copy of our code and save it into the cloud. So it doesn't matter if I throw my laptop through the window, right? My code will be safe in the cloud. Yeah, and also thanks to that strategy of saving the code into the cloud, it's much easier to share the code with someone else. You know, generally speaking, software companies they organize their products by teams. So they got a team building a piece of functionality. They got another team building something different. So thanks to platforms like GitHub, that process of sharing code, I create code, I share it with you, you create code, you share it with me, that process, natural process of sharing goods is much easier thanks to GitHub. All right. So more than 95% of the code worldwide is hosted by them. So they know a lot about coding, more than anyone else. So every year GitHub, they create a very sexy report where they talk about the most trendy programming languages, frameworks, which countries are growing from a coding point of view, blah, 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 blah. So I'm now sharing that that report. Is quite nice. If you got some minutes later on, I will invite you to definitely have a look to some of the figures that you get there, right? So even though they change the format, the layout every year, and it all takes me a while to find the information I'm looking for. If I scroll down, eventually, let me keep scrolling. My laptop is a bit slow today. Obviously, I'm streaming, I'm recording, I'm doing many things at the same time, so that doesn't help, right? But anyway, as you can see on my screen, if I know there is some delay with YouTube. If your YouTube stream starts buffering, make sure you click on the live button, because otherwise the delay between my voice and the video, the gap will increase minute after minute. So from time to time, make sure you click on the live button or simply refresh the window, and hopefully that will help to synchronize my voice a bit with my video. Yeah, so I hope you can see the chart I'm presenting you. So that chart summarizes the popularity level of each programming language, and you can see that, unsurprisingly, based on what I've said before, JavaScript has been the top one over the last few years. It's been actually top one since 2013. Python, which is by the first time in history the second most popular programming language, is not even half as popular as JavaScript. Guys, if you combine the popularity of Python and Java, second and third, according to GitHub, they are not as popular as JavaScript, in terms of number of projects. So JavaScript is clearly very, very, very popular. We at Codery, as part of our professional bootcamp, we teach JavaScript, obviously. Why? Because if you want to break into tech, everyone is looking for JavaScript developers. Unsurprisingly, it's the one, right? Unfortunately, we receive students from other bootcamps in London, and they end up joining Codery because the bootcamps, they learn things like jQuery, Ruby on Rails, SQL Server, and I don't think any of these technologies, I completely respect them, but these technologies are not going to help you to break into tech. JavaScript will massively help you. All the startups running in Shoreditch, all the new corporate greenfield projects, not all, but the immense majority of these projects are written in JavaScript. So now the next question is why? Can you tell me why JavaScript is so incredibly popular compared to any other programming language? Any thoughts?
I can take a guess.
Yeah, go for it, Jamie.
That it's got like a front end library as well as a back end library.
That's a good reason. So to me, there are three reasons why JavaScript is so popular. You said one of them. So what Jamie said is that JavaScript is a full stack language. It runs front end and it runs back end. Yeah. In other words, JavaScript is cannibalizing, if that expression makes any sense, is cannibalizing other programming languages. Yeah. Historic roles belonging to languages like Java, like PHP, like C#, like Ruby, whatever. All the backend position, not all the backend, but many backend positions are being migrated from these languages to JavaScript. And the question is, why is that? To answer the question, we need to go back to what to me is the most important reason number one why JavaScript is so popular.
Because you can make a single web app.
Sorry, say it again.
And it executed on the browser, and you can make a single web app.
Yes, definitely. We are talking about the same idea. It runs on the browser. It runs as a web app. It runs everywhere, right? That's definitely the idea. Guys, JavaScript is the only programming language, the only one that runs on every single platform, everywhere. And why is that? JavaScript was first introduced in 1995, December 1995. Yeah, so it was 24 years ago ish. At that time, even though some people were using the internet already. I hope you agree with me. It was nothing compared to what the internet is today, 24 years ago. Yeah? However, in 1995, there was a lot of potential on the web. At that time, does anyone know, even though I'm sure half of you were not even born in 1995, which was the most popular web browser at that time?
Netscape.
Brilliant. That's correct, Candice. It was Netscape 4, yeah? And Netscape at that time was only able to deal with very rudimentary websites. I'm now going to present you, I'm going to do a quick search on Google. So I'm typing 90s website. Just be ready. Probably your eyes will start bleeding. So be careful, guys. Be careful. Hopefully you forgot that. But maybe you remember that in the 90s, the web was essentially a bunch of colors, frames, weird animations of dancing babies, visitor counter, all this type. That was the web in the 90s, right? And now many UX designers may vomit watching these pictures now. But anyway, that's a different story. That was the web in the 90s. At that time, however, Netscape and obviously all the other browsers, they realized that even though that was very rudimentary, there was a lot of potential. So they wanted to bring some sort of programming language or programming capabilities to the browser. So what Netscape did was to check who wanted to run, which programming language wanted to get involved in this journey. So they knocked some doors. They knocked Java door. Hey, Java, do you want to be executed as part of my ecosystem, as part of my web browser, and Java said, no, I don't care about you. You are very simplistic. I don't care about you. They knock Python. Hey, Python, do you want to be able to run as part of my ecosystem? And Python ignored the request as well. And then they knocked JavaScript's door. JavaScript was a very, very, very new language. And because it was a very new language, the creator of JavaScript said, hey, why not? We got nothing to lose. Let's try that and see what happened. So starting from the 4th of December of 1995, we got JavaScript running on a web browser. I hope you agree with me. That today the web browser is the most important piece of software that we are all using. Yeah. Because of that, as the web browser is everywhere, JavaScript is everywhere too. Yeah. So JavaScript is so popular as a side effect of how popular the web is. You got a web browser everywhere. I'm sure when you buy a new laptop, the first thing you do is to check whether there's a web browser. If there isn't, you find a way to download one. Google Chrome, Safari, whatever. Yeah, Firefox, I don't mind. So we got a web browser on your laptop. You got a web browser on your tablet. You got a web browser on your smartphone, of course. You got a web browser on your smart TV. Even in some smart watches, the web browser is everywhere. And consequently, JavaScript is everywhere. Yeah? That was the first reason why JavaScript became so popular. I can tell you, I've been using commercial JavaScript since 2002, so it's almost 18 years. And I've seen how the baby has grown. Yeah? It was nothing, it was nowhere at that time compared to how popular it is today. So that was the first reason. JavaScript runs everywhere. The second reason, as Jamie said before, is frontend and backend. Why this is so important? Do you know, guys, the name of the engine running JavaScript on the backend?
Is it Node.js?
That's correct, Jamie. It's Node.js. So you maybe came across that, Node.js. So Node.js is the engine, the system, the server. I'm not going to be very technical here. Is the mechanism that enables JavaScript on the backend. And you may be thinking, but what the hell the backend means? So when building a web application, we got two parts. We got the front end and we got the backend. The front end is essentially the web browser. What you get on the web browser? Well, you get pictures, text, animations, colors, videos, yeah, all the user interface, all the front office of your application. That's pretty much the front end. And what is the backend? Well, the backend is like the dark side of your application. So you know that on the front end you can do many things, but the front end can be anything but a safe place to deal with information. Think about password handling. Think about credit card transactions. Think about, all this sort of, complex operation. When you deal with sensitive data, you don't want to store all this information on the web browser because probably, I'm sure you got some extensions installed on your web browser. I got few, right? I'm sure you got some extensions as well. You know, guys, that your extensions can access all your code on the front end. It's a bit risky, yeah? What happens if I'm building a sign-up journey and I'm essentially asking my users to type their email and their password? I don't really want these extensions to access my user's password, right? So we need to be careful. We need to be careful with the information that we delegate into the web browser. That's why we have the backend. It goes beyond the scope of the session to explain how the backend works, how can we integrate, how can we connect the front end and backend, how can we create an API. Obviously, as part of our professional bootcamp, we cover these things, yeah, but not today. However, before Node.js appeared, every software company building web apps, they needed at least 2 developers, at least. Why? Because they had to bring someone to the team with JavaScript skills, because that was the only programming language running on the web browser, still happening today. And also, they had to hire someone responsible to work on the backend. Again, Java, C Sharp, PHP, whatever. And someone 12 years ago, more or less, thought, hey, wait a minute. If we really need JavaScript on the front end, why don't we create a mechanism to run JavaScript on the backend? That's Node.js. Yeah. So yeah, that's the second reason why JavaScript is so popular. There is a third reason. JavaScript runs natively anywhere. Today, JavaScript sits beyond the scope of the web browser. I'm sure you are using several mobile apps written in JavaScript, even though you don't know. You don't know, right? When you install an app, you don't know if it's written in Python, you don't know the language. But JavaScript works really well on programming language. That seems stupid, but let me present you an example. In 2014, I was a senior developer at Sky TV here in London, in Osterley. And they had several teams building the same stuff. They had the web team, they have the Android team, they have the iPhone team, they have the iPad team, they have the Smart TV team, they have the Roku boxes team. They got 6-7 teams building the same features. So whenever Sky wanted to build a single new functionality, whatever, imagine that they want to add a feature to rewind the video when you double tap on the left hand side, something like that. They had to build the same functionality multiple times. That doesn't scale well because you need 150 developers to build a single piece of software. Yeah, because they got native applications running with different technologies, different languages, different frameworks. That doesn't scale well. Companies like Amazon, a few years ago, they realized that didn't work well. So they optimize the development journey by migrating everything to JavaScript. So with JavaScript, you build your functionality once, and then it works everywhere. As I will mention at the end of this session, we at Codery, we have a coding platform. Yeah. So that coding platform can be installed on any device. So if you are using an iPhone, if you go to the App Store, you can download and install the app. If you got an Android device, the same thing. Yeah. But we build the app once and then it runs everywhere. That's absolutely beautiful compared to any other coding alternative. Don't forget, guys, that coding is about building more stuff in less time. So now, yes, before starting to do some coding, my last question for you guys is, all right, so JavaScript is so cool. So if you haven't done any JavaScript before, my personal advice is you should start coding with JavaScript. Let's talk about money. Do you know how much you can make working as a JavaScript/React, JavaScript and friends? Yeah, because React, as we've discussed before, is a UI library working on top of JavaScript. Do you know how much a really good JavaScript React developer can make in London? Give me a number. Someone on the channel is suggesting 120K. I think that's a good number. Definitely. You can, someone with probably, I don't know, 6-7 years of experience can make 120K. I'll tell you something, you can make probably twice as much as 120K. If you don't believe me, I can tell you a story. Back in December, I got an offer to work as a React developer. It was 1,200 a day. 1,200 a day, right? If you multiply 1,200 a day at the end of the year, that's good money. Yeah? Companies are definitely desperate to hire JavaScript and React developers. And that's why here at Codery, we are essentially teaching that, because that will maximize your chances to break into the tech market. And even if you don't want to break into the tech market, even if you want to build an app, even if you want to create a startup or whatever, that's still the way to go. Yeah. Cool. Awesome, guys. So after this very boring introduction about why JavaScript is the way to go, I would like to start doing some coding. So I'm assuming you Guys, so let me mute someone because I can hear some background noise. Sorry about that. I hope you don't mind. Guys, if you want to participate, feel free to unmute yourself at any time. Thank you very much. So, there are multiple ways of working with JavaScript and React. Yeah? This session is essentially about React. If you have watched the video that we shared with you on the meetup page, you have probably installed something called Create React App. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you think I'm speaking Chinese and you don't speak any Chinese, please refer to the video link we shared on the meetup page on the last week. Yeah? If you check the description of today's event, you will find a link where we'll show you how to install a new application with React. That's what I'm quickly going to do now. So the first thing you need to do is you have to open a terminal like this one. You know, the terminal is that classic black and white window where you can type and you can show your mom when you start to go, oh, look, mom, I'm a hacker, and you can type, random stuff. So that's what we call a terminal. Yeah. If you're a Mac user, opening a terminal is pretty simplistic. You can simply type terminal. Yeah, that will open a window like this one. If you're a Windows user, so in Windows there are a few alternatives. The classic one, if you search CMD, they will open a terminal. I would like to invite you to use something else called PowerShell. So that's the new terminal for modern Windows systems. And if you are using Linux, I'm sure you know how to do this, right? So that's the first thing. We need to open a terminal. And now, once we got the terminal open and once we've installed Create React App, once again, if you don't know how to install it, please refer to the video that we have on the meetup page. Now the next thing is we have to create the skeleton of our app. Building a complex application with React can be challenging. Thankfully, Facebook has created that command line tool, Create React App, that will let me mute someone else. Yeah, brilliant. So Facebook has created this command line tool to speed up the process of creating React applications. So the very first step is you type Create React App space, and then you type the name of your app. The name of your app will be simply a folder in your system, a new directory. Yeah? Obviously, the name of the app should reflect the content, right? I mean, if I went on holidays to Italy, probably not the best time to go to Italy on holidays, right? But if I go to Italy on holidays and I come back and I want to have a folder with the pictures, probably the name of the folder will be, I don't know, Italy holidays or whatever. I'm not going to call it, I don't know, Australia holidays. That would be completely stupid, right? So that's pretty much the same thing. The name of the folder should reflect the content. So what are we going to build today? Personally, I don't care. I'm going to build a list of things, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. I don't care about the semantics. One of the things we used to say to our students is, it doesn't really matter what you build. The important thing is to build something you feel motivated about. I don't care if you want to build a list of football teams, if you want to build a list of touristic destination, or you want to build a porn site. I don't care. Just build something that makes you feel happy about. You wake up every day and you have the energy and the motivation to work and to struggle, why not, building that project. In my particular case, I'm going to list, for instance, a list of movies. I'm going to build a list of movies. So the name of my app will be Best Movies. Once again, feel free to change the topic. I don't really care. So once you got the name of your folder written like that, guys, try to avoid accents and weird characters because this is just a folder in your system, right? So keep it simple. Then you press enter and then we'll see what happened. So by pressing enter, now Facebook is going to download all the plugins, utilities, blah, 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 essentially all the components that our laptop requires to start working with React. In the 90s, creating a unicorn company like Google or like Facebook probably was something as simple as doing right click index.html. Yeah, these days, that has changed a lot. So now software is way more complex than it used to be in the 90s. But thankfully, we got tooling to help with the process of setting up your project. That process may take few minutes depending on your hardware. In the meantime, I would like to do something. We are going, or I'm going to use VS Code to build some content in this application. VS Code, Visual Studio Code. Guys, don't get confused. There is Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. These tools are completely independent. They got nothing to do with each other. The original, the classic Visual Studio Code, it has a violet icon. And the new one, the new Visual Studio Code application has a blue icon. So the new one is a lightweight piece of software that works really well, very smoothly, and everything. Yeah. So I'm sure some of you are familiar with Visual Studio Code, but if not, let me tell you some advantages of using VS Code. VS Code, it's free, it's open source, there is a monthly release, it's supported by a big company, which is Microsoft. There are many, it works really well, it's very reliable, very fast, lightweight, all these things. And there is not secret, but there is a hidden reason why I would like to invite you to use VS Code. VS Code is a piece of software that you have to install. You download it, double click, next. It's a piece of software, yeah, like Photoshop or something else. However, VS Code is written in JavaScript, and that proves the theory that today JavaScript, the scope of JavaScript sits way beyond the scope of a web browser. Yeah. If you prefer to use a different code editor, that's fine. We at Codery, we are not extremely opinionated about code editors. Yeah. To me, the important thing is the result, the code that you create. How you end up building that code, I don't care. Yeah. So if you got any favorite code editor, go for it. If not, let me invite you to use VS Code. Cool. After this introduction to the editor, you can see that, you get that annoying happy hacking message at the bottom. That means that the skeleton of your app got successfully installed. So what am I going to do next? The next step is go to VS Code, and then we are going to open this project. And here is where many developers got a bit confused. Where that project I got created is. We need to go to open folder, or if you don't know that, if you don't get that view, you can go to file open. It's the same, right? It's like opening a file with Photoshop. There's nothing exotic in this process. Once you do that, you have to find the location of your project, or the location of the project you have created. Here, many people got confused. If you are a Mac user, finding your home directory, that's the default location of your project, is pretty simple. This is, you select your home icon on the drop-down, and then you got it there. If, however, you are a Windows user, it could be slightly more complicated to identify the path of your home directory. It will look something like that. C:/users/ the name of your user, for instance, sexy boy 19, and then your project name, best movies or whatever. Yeah, that's the location of your project if you are using Windows. Yeah? All right, so once we got that, then Visual Studio Code will open the project and will render some dependencies. So does anyone know, can anyone tell me, when you work with a piece of JavaScript, with a JavaScript software, JavaScript application, can anyone tell me how can I start the application? Does anyone know how to start the server, let's say?
npm start.
Brilliant, that's correct, npm start. So there is a de facto standard, and it doesn't matter if you are using React, Angular, or any other framework. Thankfully, today in 2020, there is a sort of de facto standard way of starting the server. Starting the server means I want to make my application available to my audience, yeah? At least locally, yeah? So where do we type npm start? Of course, we can use the terminal, yeah? That's fine, we can use the external terminal. However, we at Codery focus a lot on productivity. We want to build more stuff in less time. Personally, I'm not a big fan of moving between my editor and my terminal. I'm not a big fan of this sort of back and forth navigation. That sort of ping pong doesn't play well with me. Is there a way to start the server directly from Visual Studio Code? Yes. From the menu, you will find an option called Terminal, and then you can click on New Terminal. So when I click on New Terminal, now, look, I can type my commands at the bottom of my screen. So that means I can interact with my application easily. I don't need the external terminal anymore. I don't need to go back and forth between these two windows, right? So as someone suggested, the way to start our application is by typing npm start. Let's try that. Let's see what happens, guys. npm start, and I'm not touching my laptop, promise. Let's see what happens. If my theory is correct, now my my system is opening. Actually, it's opening a new window. That's why I had to move it back to the recording window. So my system has automatically opened a new tab, and now you can see there is a URL, there is a port. We don't really care about that. The important thing here is, after a few seconds, hopefully that tab will present some sort of hello world message. We'll see if that's right or not. Once again, it's the first time. It may take maybe 1 minute or so, right? It doesn't used to be that slow, but once again, I'm stressing my laptop a bit. So let's just wait and see if it works. So that's a good, speed trap. So if we manage to get that window, here we go. Finally, it loaded. So as you can hopefully see in my screen, I got the React logo. So the React logo is a way to prove that everything is okay. My laptop is essentially ready to start dealing with React. Yeah? And that's great, because from now on, everything is going to be magic. Not magic, science, right? But everything is going to be much easier. All the setup, all the boring process of setting up your laptop, blah, 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 is done. It's over. Now it's time to have some fun. So you know that we as humans, and probably particularly men, we don't tend to read instructions, right? When we buy a new TV, who reads instructions of a new TV? No one, right? But however, Facebook did something really well. The instructions, at least, the most important instruction is literally one line. Look, edit source app and save to reload. So the message here is, please go back to your Visual Studio Code editor, or whichever editor you are using. Once again, I don't really care. And then on the left-hand side, please expand the src folder or source folder and open the app.javascript file. So once we open that file, we see something interesting. So this file is essentially the source code generating that template welcome page. So, guys, is that markup language familiar to any of you? What is that?
HTML.
HTML. Interesting. Definitely looks like HTML. Does anybody disagree on that?
Yes, myself.
All right, that's interesting.
Looks like HTML, but it's not HTML.
Ah, nice. That's exactly it. Looks like HTML. Definitely looks like HTML. You got divs, you got headers, you got images, right? However, there are some subtle differences. Can you tell me one difference with HTML here?
It's got JavaScript in it.
It's got JavaScript in it, correct. It's got JavaScript around, that's correct. And also, you know that in HTML, if you want to do some styling, you add an attribute called class. Yeah, you add a class,
Yes.
and then on your CSS, you add colors, paddings, whatever. However, if you pay attention to details, here we don't use the keyword class. We use class name. In other words, that looks like HTML. It's very similar to HTML. However, there are some subtle yet important differences. Technically speaking, this is not called HTML. This is called JSX. JSX is a fork, is a variation of HTML. However, let's ignore these differences. React became very popular very quickly because of a bunch of reasons. One of them is, by the first time in history of JavaScript, they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. Before React, the immense majority of frameworks and libraries, they tried to define a new standard, a new way of doing everything. However, what React said is, no, wait a minute. Even if you have no idea about JavaScript, even if you have no idea about coding, but if you know a bit of HTML, fantastic, you can reuse that. You can reuse that expertise here. And that's essentially what we can see here. Ignoring the subtle differences, if you have no idea about JavaScript, but you know a bit of HTML, fantastic, you don't start from scratch. All right, so guys, let's actually follow the instructions. Edit, source, app, and set to reload. Okay, look, that's my HTML. So let me change that to hello meetup folks. Yeah? I'm just changing line number 11, and then back to my web browser. You see, the message got automatically updated. So as soon as you change your code, the web browser picks the changes. You don't have to refresh the page every time you change something, which is pretty convenient. This is one of the wonderful features that Facebook offers you when you use Create React app. Cool. Now imagine that you want to build something interesting. You don't really want the React logo around. You don't want that weird coloring. You don't want any of that, right? When you build an application, you really want to start from scratch. What that means, I'm going to remove the majority of my content. I got something called the header that React gave me out of the box. I'm going to remove it completely. And now I will type something like welcome, or maybe best movies app. I'm just changing the title of my web application. So if I go back to my web browser, I can see that now I'm really starting from scratch. So I hope you agree with me. That's a much better starting point. So now my question is, the title looks very small. Does anyone know how can I increase the size of my text using HTML?
H1?
H1, brilliant, I love that. Yes, H1. So I can surround my title with H1. So if I refresh, I got my title size, it got bigger. How is the delay, guys? Is it a big delay between my voice and the video? How's it going?
It's like maybe a 15-second delay for me.
15 seconds. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't expect that to be that high. Make sure, guys, you got the live button clicked all the time, because as soon as the video starts buffering, the delay just gets better. Gets increased. Yeah. So make sure you press the live button on YouTube, or if not, make sure you refresh the page. Yeah. I'm sorry about the delay. All right. So we got the title, but now the question is, how do we add some content? I would like to add some pictures. Yeah, I would like to add, for instance, the title of my favorite movie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div. I'm sorry about the delay once again. I'll try to speak slower and see if that any helps. So I'm going to create a div. Inside of the div, I'm going to display maybe, I don't know, the title of one of my favorite movies. So my title is gonna be, I don't know, just feel free to pick your favorite movie. Megashark versus Crocosaurus. So that's my title. And when you go back to the web browser, I got my title display. Now, what if I want to add a picture associated to that movie? I want to add a picture representing the movie. Let's learn how to do that, guys. The first thing is we have to go to Google and we need to find the picture, right? So the first step has nothing to do with JavaScript, nothing to do with coding. Let's just find the picture. So now on Google, I'm typing the name of the movie, Megashark versus Crocosaurus. So I will go to the images tab, and essentially I will find a picture. So once you find the picture, you have to download it. And where do we download it? That's important, guys. We have to download the picture inside of the project. Don't save the picture on your desktop folder. Don't save the picture to your downloads folder. React projects are self-encapsulated. All the resources associated to that project, I'm talking about source code, images, audio, video, whatever, CSS, HTML, all the resources should be inside of your root folder. So once you got the picture, you select, you save it essentially, and once again, make sure you identify the location of your project. Just a couple of things, a couple of friendly advices. First of all, please save the picture inside of the SRC folder. If you save it outside of the SRC folder, you may have problems. The second advice is, please rename the picture. That's optional. But you know that sometimes Google is a bit funny when naming images you want to download. Sometimes picture names are stupidly long. So make sure your picture name is short enough, because you'll have to type that name in a minute, right? So just thinking about your own health, make sure your picture has a short name. Once you save the picture, you will see on VS Code that the picture is immediately displayed. So you will see on the left-hand side of your panel that the picture is there, and you can even preview it, and you know the editor will automatically pick the change, right? All right, so once we got that, let's learn how to display that picture on the screen. The process of displaying a picture with React is equivalent to the process of buying and consuming some milk. Imagine that after this session, you realize that you don't have any milk on your fridge. Actually, that example is a bit stupid during the lockdown, but imagine that we live in a different dimension where everything goes as normal, and you want to Tesco to buy some milk. You don't really want to consume the milk immediately. What you do is you go to Tesco, and then back home you put the milk in the fridge. Yeah? And later on, at some point, you will consume the pint of milk. Yeah? But it doesn't necessarily happen immediately. So that's the same process as displaying a picture with React. We need to do two things. There are two steps involved. The first step is to import the picture. That's a standard, guys, when talking about React. We first of all are gonna make the picture available. It's like putting the milk into the fridge. You essentially are making the milk available, so you or anyone living with you can consume it. Yeah. So that's the same process. So from top of the app.javascript file, the first thing you do is you type import and then a variable representing the picture. It doesn't matter what you type. I'll be back to that point in a minute. So for instance, megashark from, and now we have to identify the location of the file. So the way we identify the location of the file is by using single or double quotes and then dot slash. So dot slash means the file I'm looking for is on the same directory as the current one. Megashark is on the same directory as app.js. Yeah, so the only thing I have to do is now to type megashark.jpg. Be careful, guys, with the extension name, because if you've got a JPG image and you type PNG, that won't really work. Yeah. All right, so I got megashark variable here. Now let's learn how to display it, because at the moment, yes, the picture is available, but if you pay attention to the HTML bit, the picture is not displayed. In other words, if I go back to my web browser, the picture is just, and it's not available because I'm not displaying it yet. So how can I display a picture with React? The first part, I'm sure, is familiar to some of you at least. In HTML, to display a picture, you type img, then you type src equals, and now what you type is the picture itself. In HTML, what you type is the location of the picture, maybe dot slash whatever, yeah? But that's not really React friendly. In React, to display a picture, what we do is, and this is very important, guys, this is vital actually, whenever we want to access a JavaScript variable inside of HTML, we have to surround it with curly braces. As you will see in a minute, I'm typing src equals and now curly braces. So now inside of the curly braces, I paste the name of the picture. And that's pretty much it. So once you do that, if you check on the web browser, you will see that your megashark picture is available on your screen. Yeah? We are going to ignore the UI and UX. We may do that in a different session, but not today. At least the important thing is to know that the picture is actually displayed. So I got a question for you. Guys, do you think that it will work if I rename megashark variable, if I rename it with Boris Johnson? What do you think, guys? Will this work or not? Guys, you are on mute, so if anyone is trying to speak, this is not gonna work. So not sure if you've seen what I've done. I have renamed the picture from megashark to Boris Johnson. And now my question is, will it work? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. It will work because it doesn't matter how you name the variable. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. We are saving the content of the picture into that variable, and then we are displaying it. So if we go back to the web browser, it still works. I can call it Brexit if you want. If I call it Brexit, still works. This is probably the only scenario where Brexit will work as expected. However, from a semantics point of view, I hope you agree with me that Brexit is not a good variable name because it doesn't tell anything about the semantics of your exercise. The most difficult aspect of coding is not about writing code, it's about reading code. We at Codery, as part of our bootcamp, we train job interview questions and we train whiteboard challenges. Companies presenting you a whiteboard with an algorithm on it and asking you to have a chat about it. So reading others' code can be challenging sometimes. So to simplify that as much as possible, let me call it Mega Shark. By the way, you probably notice I'm separating both words, Mega and Shark, with a capital S. So that's what we call camel case syntax. There are different type of syntaxes when talking about JavaScript, but I'm not going to talk about that now. All right, so for now, we got the title and we got the picture. So my next step is I'm gonna duplicate that picture because I want to display on my app, obviously not just a single picture. That wouldn't be a great application, right? I want to display multiple movies. So let me do something. I'm quickly going to Google and I'm gonna essentially find another couple of pictures about famous movies. So feel free to do the same with me. So my second picture is gonna be Shark Topius. So the same process, So coding is about doing the same thing again and again, but it's about mastering that process of repeating the same tasks. So I got Shark Topius and I will download it. And finally, I'm gonna search another good movie, Shark Exorcist. The same process, I got Shark Exorcist, I got the picture, and then once I got the picture, I will save it into my project. Shark, let me call it Exorcist for simplicity reasons. So once you do that, back to your VS Code, and you just repeat yourself. You import the pictures, Shark Topius, and then Shark Exorcist from Shark Topius and Exorcist. Be careful, guys. Once again, guys, with the extension of the files, otherwise that won't work. So once you do that, essentially you have to duplicate the markup, change the titles, Megashark versus Crocosaurus. Then we also have Shark Topius, and then we also have Shark Exorcist, with the correct images on each picture. So once we do that, we check on the web browser and let's see if it works. So obviously ignoring the user interface, ignoring the styling of my app, how you agree with me, that's looking good, right? Once you get the stream available. So you got Megashark versus Crocosaurus with the picture, you got Shark Topius with the picture, and finally you got Shark Exorcist with the picture. So yeah, that's looking good. But now, my question is, imagine that instead of 3 pictures, let's stick to 3 pictures. We got 3 pictures. Imagine that we go live, we start making some business out of our application. But imagine that now our UX specialist, suggests that the movie title is not large enough, it's too small. So they want to change the containing div. Instead of a div, they want to have maybe H2, H3. They want to have a title. So can anyone tell me how many times we will need to change the title using HTML?
Do you want to style it, you mean?
Yeah, I want to style it, but I don't want to style my CSS. I want to, instead of having a div, hopefully you can see I got divs surrounding my titles.
Yeah.
I want to use
Yeah.
H2, H3, whatever. So how many lines of code I need to change to satisfy the UX specialist appetite?
You can add H2 on one, all of them.
Yeah,
but
all of them.
have to refactor it.
Exactly. You say that. You say that. I like the way you explain it. So do you agree with me that I will have to change it individually on its title, on its movie? In other words, here, that's okay, right? I got 3 movies. It takes me 10 seconds to refactor my code, as you said. However, I hope you agree with me that strategy is risky, because if instead of 3 movies, I got 3,000, it's going to be a pain in the ass to manually change 3,000 lines of code, right? And this is error prone. I will easily forget one of the movies and it will look different on the UI. Such a big mess, such a big disaster. So, thankfully, with React, we can create some sort of template. When is your anniversary or when is your birthday, whatever, you sign up into a web page and they send you an email. Hello, Peter, happy birthday. Yeah, obviously that's a template. Every user on that platform gets the same email, but they change few things. They change your name and I don't know, a few basic details. Yeah, so that's the same process here. I'm going to create a template, a movie template, and then I will reuse it as many times as necessary. And how do I do it? To create a template, technically speaking, templates in React are called components. So a component is a function, a JavaScript function. So now, as you will see in a minute, hopefully in less than a minute on my screen, obviously. So now on my screen, I'm creating a new function on top of the function app, and then I'm typing the name of the function. Let me call it movie. And now, what is that function doing? That function is returning a piece of HTML. So for instance, just for testing purposes, let me return hello. So returning hello means that now on my app component, I can essentially bind with that movie component. I can essentially display it. And how do I display it? Well, the only thing I have to do is to use that function as an HTML tag. I think now YouTube is updating the stream. Yeah? So React components are just HTML tags, like a div, like H1, H2, like labels. Yeah, React components are just HTML tags, and because they're HTML tags, that implies, I can use them regularly. So I can just use them on my HTML somewhere. So, for instance, look what happened if I display the movie component 3 times. When I do that, and once again, apologies for the delay with YouTube, but you'll be able to watch that afterwards. If I display my movie 3 times, what this does is just displaying the hello message 3 times. But obviously, that's not what we want. What we want is not to display the hello message. What we want is to display a template with our movie. So how do we do that? Well, let me move one of my movies and let me paste it into my movie component. And we'll see what happens in a minute. Guys, I'm considering something, because I can see there is a big delay between my voice and YouTube. I'm going to present my screen on Hangouts. So I hope, guys, not sure if that will work or not, but trying to help a bit. Could you please, guys, confirm? You can actually close YouTube if you want, because in theory, you should be able to see my screen using Hangouts. Could you please confirm, guys, that you can see my screen using Hangouts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's brilliant. That's much better because now you get the video in real time with my voice. So now hopefully it will be much easier to follow the session. Obviously, the first time we run this type of event, so this is a learning, yeah, for future editions. All right. So as you can see here, I have created the movie component, and I'm essentially rendering that component later on. You see, movie, movie, movie 3 times. So now I got a question for you. What do you think my application will look like at the moment? How many pictures will it display?
3, the same.
Fantastic. That's exactly it. I will display 3 movies, movie. However, as you suggested, the content will be the same because we are hard coding the title and we are hard coding the picture. Let's prove that, guys. If I go back to my web browser, whatever it is, where is my web browser, guys? It's gone. Let me try to find it. Here you go. Here's my web browser, right? So you can see on my web browser, I got title, Megasark, picture, that's okay on the first one. However, the second one, oh, same title, same picture, not great. And on the third one, oh, same title, same picture. So definitely not great. Yeah. So what we need to do is to customize the data. Yeah, that's a template. But back to the birthday email example, on the birthday template, the website you sign up, they customize the message to you, depending on your name, maybe your age, whatever. Yeah? Before going any further, guys, that piece of HTML looks a bit weird. You see lots of spacing, that doesn't look fully correct to me. It goes beyond the scope of this session to explain how to write HTML correctly, which standards should we follow, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do that now. However, let me show you a hint. If you are not very familiar with JavaScript, with React, with HTML, and you want to make sure your code looks as nice as possible, let me show you a hint. VS Code has a tool to automatically optimize the look and feel of your code. How we do that? Anywhere in your file, you do right click, and then you select format document. So when you click there, pop, you see VS Code automatically, improved indentation and things like that. Yeah. So I think that's pretty convenient. Now the next question is, yeah, Megasar versus Crocosaurus, fine. 3 times, that's not fine. Yeah. So let's pass some data to the movie. Every time I render a movie, I want to customize the data. To do so, we can pass some HTML attributes. Movie is an HTML tag. Movie. 3 HTML tags. Because HTML tags support attributes like the class name, we can pass custom data, like for instance the title. Title, Megasark versus Crocosaurus. Yeah? And then title equals Sarctopius, and finally title equals whatever, Sark Exorcist. So now I got the question for you guys. So will we have the 3 different titles or not, and why? Any thoughts?
I think no.
Why not, Candice?
Because In the function movie, you haven't defined title.
That's correct. Even though we are facilitating all the details to the movie component, yeah. So from the bottom of my component, so from the app component point of view, that's okay. The movie component is ignoring the title. It's still displaying megasarcs, hard coding that information. So now, how do we bind? How do we connect both components? Look at the syntax, guys. We have to pass what we call in JavaScript an argument inside of the movie component. The argument is called props. And now, once you got props, we can access any property we are passing. Props is an object. If you're not familiar with JavaScript, you can, let me show you, you can create something like an object called user, and that's essentially a dictionary with key value pairs. So for instance, we can have the name of the user, name Peter, age 34, for instance. So now the way we can access the name of the user is by typing user.name. That's the syntax in JavaScript to display some content. Yeah. So now, if the title is provided, which is the case, we can display the title by typing props.title. Props.title will hopefully display each individual title. But now, pay attention because that's not gonna work. And I want you to figure out why this code is not correct. Let's pay attention to the outcome of this algorithm. So if I go back to my web browser, oh, what the hell is that? You see, it's statically displaying props.title instead of the actual title of the movie. So can anyone tell me why is that happening?
Maybe because we had to pass the argument in the movie function.
We have the argument, Marco. We have the props argument. So props.title definitely holds the title of its movie. The problem is, if you remember, guys, before I told you that whenever you want to access any JavaScript variable, and props.title is a JavaScript variable, then you have to surround it with a special character. Do you remember which one?
This?
Sorry, say it again?
This?
No. Not this. No. Curly brackets, correct, Jamie. Curly brackets. Yeah, curly brackets. You see, VS Code is changing the color. So then it's even easier to read. And now, guys, let's pay attention because this is gonna be wonderful. If I go back to my web browser, boom. You see? I got Megasar versus Crocosaurus. If I scroll down, I got Sarctopius. And if I scroll down, I got Sarc Exorcist. Yeah? So that's working perfectly. And you may be arguing, yeah, that's fine, but what about the picture? Well, fair enough. We can repeat the same process, guys. Of course, it goes without saying we can pass multiple attributes, not just the title. So let's pass a second attribute with, for instance, the picture. You can call it image, picture, cover, I don't mind, yeah, whatever you want. So now I'm going to pass, first of all, Megasarc. Yeah. You see, that doesn't look right. It's displaying red color with some errors. So if you hover, VS Code will give you the reason. It's not working because we expect curly braces. In other words, once again, you see, guys, it's the same problem. Megasarc is a JavaScript variable. So if we want to play with it inside of the HTML, once again, we have to surround it with curly braces. So we pass Megasarc, we pass Sarctopius, and then so let me type it correctly, Sarctopius, hopefully, and finally, let's pass the Sarc Exorcist. Will it work, guys, or not? What do you think?
No.
Why not?
Because on the top you haven't changed it.
Exactly. At the top, on the movie component, we are still hard coding Megasarc. So can you tell me how to solve the problem?
Image props dot image.
Props dot image.
I
Fantastic.
don't know.
Brilliant. Yeah. You know, don't say I don't know because that solution is brilliant. You see, that's great. Look, that's the reason why React is so popular because it's predictable. You didn't know the answer, but based on what we've learned before, you just guessed something, and it turns out that your assumption was fully correct, which is brilliant. Yeah. Look, guys. If I present you the app again, I got Megasarcosaurus. If I scroll down, I got Sharktopius with a picture. And if I scroll down, I got Shark Exorcist. That means that works perfectly. So if you remember, guys, before I asked you, how many times we had to change our markup. So if you got 3 movies, we had to change the title size H1, H2, H3, whatever, 3 times. If we got 300 movies, we had to change it 300 times. But now, how many times, guys, I had to change, for instance, from H2 to H3 to represent the title of each movie? How many times?
Once, just in the function.
That's correct, Jamie. Just once. If I change my title just once, you see, all the movies will automatically inherit that change. You see, now the title is a bit smaller. That means our movie component is very scalable. Yeah, we are adding some scalability to our platform. It doesn't matter whether we have 1 movie, 4 movies, or 4 million movies. All the titles will inherit the changes that we have introduced once, just once, and only once. Do you have any questions so far, guys? I'll take.
Are we gonna?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go for
Can
it.
I ask?
Yeah, go for it.
Are we in the top, you keep importing the single images. Are you gonna go there as well?
That's a really good question. In this particular case, unfortunately, we have to import the images individually. There are techniques to load the images dynamically, but unfortunately, that's beyond the scope of this session. Obviously, if you are if you are Netflix, you don't import 3,000 pictures, right? That doesn't make sense. Yeah. So there are techniques to improve that, but let's postpone that discussion to a future session, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Cool. So now I got a question for you guys. We got the title, we got the picture. What if now our business analyst wants to add, for instance, the score associated to each movie? The rating. Platforms like Rotten Tomatoes, they give a score to each movie. So based on the score, you may decide whether you want to watch that particular movie or not. So can anyone tell me how to add the score of each movie dynamically? For instance, near the title, I got the title, score, and then 7.8. But I don't want to type 7.8. I want to type the score associated to each movie. Can anyone give me an idea about how to do that?
Are we talking like an API thingy?
No, much easier than that. We are passing we have the title and the picture. So I want to have the score. So this is just to summarize what we've done so far. I want you. Yeah, Jamie, go for it.
Just add score in where we've added title and image.
Correct.
Add score.
Correct. We have a new attribute called a score, and then we can pass a number, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so first of all, let's do that for all the 3 movies. I will give you my personal scores of each movie, just in case you are bored these days with the lockdown and you want to have some fun. You know where to look at. Yeah. So yeah, I got my scores, but now my question is, will these scores be dynamically presented? Clearly not. What do I need to type on the movie component? I give you a hint. Can I type props.score? Will that work?
Do we need some more curly braces around?
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct, Amy. We have to surround the expression with curly braces. So once we do that, if we go back to the web browser, you will see that alongside the movie title, we get the score associated to it. Yeah? And that's the way it works. Just one more thing, guys. Eventually, we may have multiple attributes associated to each movie. Yeah? Eventually, some of your lines on your HTML may be quite long. Probably you notice I got a vertical white line here. That's a friendly way to tell the developer, hey, you know what? If your line went beyond that logical point, it's probably good time to refactor your code. So whenever that happens, I will invite you to do something like that, to keep a single attribute per line. I hope you agree with me. The code becomes even cleaner. Yeah, it's much easier to identify the properties that we are passing to the movie component each time. Do you have any questions, guys? All right, I'll take the silence as a no. So we are almost done. We just have 4 minutes left. So let me present you something. You know that at Codery we run bootcamps. We help students to learn coding, professional coding, and we help them to break into the tech market afterwards. So let me just spend the last couple of minutes, talking about that. So we have, at Codery we don't make any business. So me personally, I created Codery a couple of years ago because I've been working for almost 18 years commercially, and I've seen how many graduates have failed to break into tech. Yeah, I remember my last commercial role at HSBC in Canary Wharf. Many graduates have failed to secure a job. So I noticed that the students, they paid a lot of money to learn coding, and it's not about the money, it's about what they've learned. The syllabus in many occasions is really disconnected from what companies demand. Because of that, I created Codery, and it was a 2-year plan where I wanted to help developers to learn literally what the market demands to break into tech. So unfortunately, this summer, it will be the end of the second year, and I will stop running bootcamps. However, we got the last cohort starting in May. So if anyone is interested, if you go to codery.com/bootcamp, you can find all the details. It goes without saying that the next cohort is online because of the lockdown. We've been running online courses since 2018, so we're used to that. So if you like this session, obviously please ignore all the connectivity issues, because you know that from now on we'll be using the screen sharing with Hangouts to facilitate the process. If you like the workshop and you want to code commercially and you don't want to waste your time, you don't want to waste your money,